Hey guys, welcome back to Mgtow is Freedom. Mgtow is men going their own way. I want to thank everyone for tolerating all the garbage that's going on the channel, having to do with their censorship efforts and goofing with me, because I've been goofing back with them. I've been giving them a hard time. Right? They make me laugh, right? I'm going to do my own thing. You may notice over the next couple weeks, who knows if I feel like it, months, right? Maybe the rest of my life, I'm going to wear these ridiculous Hawaiian shirts. Why? Because it suits me. Right? We should all do what we want. Go your own way. I used to dress trying to make sure I fit in, make sure I did what everyone else liked, right? You know, I'm going to go my own way. These shirts are light and comfortable. They breathe really well, and I stay cool and comfortable. And then I have people that don't like them. They're annoyed by them. And they go, "What are you wearing that thing for?" I go, "Because I want to. It pleases me." Who the hell are you to ask me about that? And put them on the spot and then get in their face, ask them about their clothes. What prompted them to say something and how far were their panties pulled up their crack? Anyways, at the end of this video, I've got some very interesting news, an idea, a concept I want to throw out there. It was brought to my attention today by Naz. And I don't know which way I'm going to go, but I want to throw this out there to you guys to think about. So, anyways, let's start the video. Cars have seatbelts. Planes, you get parachutes. Boats have life rafts. Now, if 3 out of the 4 trips you took in a car, a plane, or a boat was going to crash in 3 out of 4 of them, would you get would you get in that car, that boat, or that airplane? No, you wouldn't. If it was 1 out of 4, you wouldn't, right? Why would you take the risk? Why? Right? You're assured you're going to be, at the very least, delayed, at worst dead, and more than likely somewhere in the middle. You know, injured, maimed, cut up, bleeding. That's a hell of a way to make a living. You know, collecting insurance money for injuries. Ouch, right? So why is it when you hear about a man who's planning his life, right, that people want to look at him and go, "You're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong." And he's saying, all I'm doing is the same thing they do in the automotive company, inventing the seatbelt to minimize damage. You know, you don't jump out of a plane without a parachute, and you don't get on a boat without a life raft. So why is it that the smart man, who thinks he's going to get out of all the pain and suffering and loss of a marriage, how come they're such bad guys for putting together a prenup? I don't want to talk about the complexities of prenuptial agreements or the validity or legality or how they don't stand up. I'm talking about just the idea of trying to plan for your life, right? You know, if you go and get into a marriage and you don't do any planning about what could happen, whoops, right? But no one says anything about that. But if you do some sort of planning, like put together a prenuptial agreement, you're an asshole. You're a horrible guy. What do you mean you're planning for a divorce? It's like planning for a disaster, right? Right? If you don't do anything, any sort of planning, you are a dumbass. And any woman you're with is going to treat you as if you are dumb. You know, men today, we go, why is it that we get into these relationships and women they just walk all over us emotionally, walk all over us legally, socially? Why? It's because they know the truth. They know the truth. Women know that as soon as they've got us into an engagement, they're slipping the noose over our heads. As soon as you walk down that aisle, right, and put the ring on the finger, that's the ceremonial conclusion of your death sentence. They now own you, or at least they own your freedom, right? And they're going to treat you as such. You're dumb enough to do that? Hell yeah, they think they're smarter than you. I can't think of any woman that'll marry a man if she's a multi-millionaire and he's just a dipshit. She's not going to marry a man without a prenuptial. Oh, hell no. She's not going to give away her fortune if she's making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. Right? But if a man does it, if he tries planning for his life, he is an asshole. Just plain and simple. You're supposed to plan for your entire career to work. You go to school, you find out what you're good at, you go to college, you get a degree, you go to a trade school and get specialized education, you go out into the private world or the public sector, right, government jobs, and you work and you work, and you know that that's where you're going. You plan for it. You plan for your retirement. I'm going to do this type of investment. I'm going to get into real estate, right? I'm going to get into private business and start my own company. You're supposed to plan everything except for the thing that is most likely to happen. Disaster. Divorce. I know the words aren't related, but they both start with D and it sounds good to say. Right? But in a car, I've only been in a handful of accidents my whole life. Most of them were nothing. I ran into a cow. A friend of mine was driving when I was in high school. We got in a head-on collision. Right? I've only been in a couple little accidents. Yet there's planning for that. Cars have seat belts, just in case. But I've driven hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles. Just been in a couple minor wrecks. Now, the head-on was a big freaking wreck, but everything else, no big deal, right? Airplanes, if you're going to jump out of one, you don't want to crash and die. You got a parachute. Lifeboats for, life raft for boats. You've just got to plan ahead. Now, one of the greatest shipwrecks of all time, most famous, is the Titanic. Not enough lifeboats, bad planning. What did everyone do? Castigated, right? The White Line Company, the owner of the Titanic, right? Just, today they'd be so far sued, their great-grandchildren would be paying reparations to the victims. What I'm saying is, everywhere else in your life, gentlemen, you have to plan. Education, retirement. You're going to have a family, you've got to plan that. You plan everything. Your house. How much money do you have to buy a house? How much house should you buy? You got to work out all the calculations. That's a plan. Everything is about planning. Everything in your life, except marriage. In marriage, you're supposed to put on blinders. Love is just so beautiful. You've got to put on blinders and completely forget about facts. Completely disregard reality. No need for that. As if it's a walk in the park. Hell, a walk in the park blindfolded is safer than getting married. You get mugged in the park as you're blindfolded, right? You've only lost what you have on you. You haven't lost your whole life. Worst thing that can happen health-wise, you fall in the lake, right? Maybe trip, sprain an ankle, break your leg. That only takes a couple of weeks or a couple of months to get over. It's not 10, 20, 30 years of your life lost. Compared to divorce or marriage, where divorce is practically an inevitability these days, a walk in the park blind is nothing. Right? It would be cheaper to get in the ring blindfolded and fight Mayweather or McGregor, right, than it would be to get married. Because once again, you can get through the damage. But everything else, man, your whole life planned. Or at least it should be. But I think this is where women really look at men and go, are you that stupid? Right? They tell you they love you. They make you some food. they have some sex with you, you tie yourself to them in a contract. A contract in which the dissolution of that contract is for you to forfeit half your life and more because of child support, because of spousal support, because lawyers are vicious and the state sides with women, right? If a marriage contract or a marriage is a contract that has set rules and guidelines, you should understand that, right? That those rules and guidelines for dissolution, they tell you the planned out steps. So why wouldn't you come up with a plan for your whole life before you get married? Before you even consider getting married? Before you consider having kids? Look at the system where you're at is what I'm saying. Look at it. Weigh your options. If you could start two businesses, two businesses, and one of them you looked at, and it said your odds of this business succeeding are 75%, 25% failure rate. And you looked at the other business, and it said 25% success rate, 75% failure rate. Which of the two plans are you going to choose? Naturally, you're going to choose the plan that has the best chance of success. That's success, right? That is, you haven't lost everything. You haven't been destroyed. In terms of business, you would definitely take the one that has the best odds. Being Mgtow, staying single, is a different business than getting married to a woman and living your life with them, as long as they stay with you, that is. But the odds of that business failing are much, much higher. Right? Because marriage is a business. It costs money and there's a financial penalty to it. The other business is your happiness. You know, they're both businesses of happiness, but one of them is an open contract. One of these businesses is a sole proprietorship, as in you're the only owner, the sole owner, and no one else gets to own you or your assets. So when we look at this, you really have to examine. Everyone else has a plan. And they even have plans, even though the odds are far and wide, right? For disaster. Struck, seat belts and airbags. Seat belts and airbags. This truck has been on the planet 17 years. When I bumped that cow, which dented my bumper, bovine butthead, the airbags didn't go off. It wasn't that bad. Didn't cost me very much, right? But I did have a huge backup plan or safety plan, right? That was the seatbelt. In marriage, there is no seatbelt. The closest thing we can use analogously is in a marriage is the prenuptial. But you're told that if you have a prenuptial before you get married, right? If you tell the woman, hey, I want a prenup before we get married, everyone, your own mother even, is going to think you're a prick. Society, women, your co-workers, everybody, what a jerk. I can't think of a time when I've sat in my vehicle with my seatbelt on and everyone walked up to me and said, you know what, John? You're a royal prick for putting that seatbelt on. How dare you protect yourself? How stupid. That's not necessary. Nope, they all say, put on your seatbelt. Be safe. Better to be safe than sorry. It's better to be safe than sorry. Let's just examine that. I'm going to let you think about that. Safe than sorry.